Hey guys, Brad here, back with another ant keeping video. Today, I wanted to make a video on how to found and raise an ant colony. Now first, you need a queen ant. You can find them outside running around after a natural flight. Now founding the queen ant could be different depending on the species. This is because species are divided into three groups. These are fully claustral, semi-claustral, and parasitic. Fully claustral means the queen ant does not need food until the colony gets workers. Semi-claustral means the queen needs food during founding. Parasitic means the queen needs a host colony to start its own colony. Fully claustral are the most common out of all of these. The species can be Camponotus formica, Dorymyrmex, Solenopsis, Myrmecocystis, and a lot of others. Once you've caught a queen, put it in a test tube. You do not need substrate unless the species needs it for their cocoons. Now, some species can be more sensitive than others, like Camponotus. You can check on them like basically every day and they'll be fine. But something like Myrmecocystis should be checked like every several weeks. When your queen is in the tube, it will lay many eggs. The eggs turn into larvae, then the larvae turn into pupae, and finally the pupae hatch into workers. Now, semi-claustral ants. The most common semi-claustral species is Pagana myrmex. Most of the time, you should give the ant an outworld so they could forage and collect food. Me personally, I give mine seeds in their tube so I don't have to give each queen their own outworld, which saves me space. Also, do not check on your queen often. If the queen's tube is dark but the outworld has light, this could be an exception. I'd say limit to checking your queen once every week or so. Finally, parasitic queens. These are by far the most tricky out of all of them. I personally don't know anyone that has been able to get a good colony out of these. Usually people say to donate the queen pupae so these act as host workers. Other than that, I'm not really sure how to keep them. They're pretty tricky. Raising an ant colony could either be easy or difficult depending on what species you have. Also, care could be different too. But I'm going over the basics on what you need to do. Once your colony gets workers, give them an outworld. The outworld is where you feed them. As a young colony with around 1 to 9 workers, give them sugars 1 to 2 times a week and proteins 1 to 2 times a week. Once they get over 10 workers, give them sugars every other day and protein at least twice a week. Your colony should have good growth from then on. I hear people say, oh, Camponotus is a very slow species and don't get big colonies fast. Well, egg to worker wise, they're not the fastest, but colony size wise, no. If you fed a Camponotus colony a good amount of protein for its first year, you could get like Camponotus vicinus or something to 20 to 40 workers in its first year. Obviously, 20 to 40 workers is tiny compared to some dumb species like Solenopsis, which gets hundreds in its first year. But 20 to 40 workers is actually a pretty good number for a first year mountain Camponotus. Now currently I have a Camponotus fragilis colony with around 230 workers in their second year. You might be saying, oh, that's good for a Camponotus in its second year. Well, for Camponotus fragilis, that isn't too good. In their first year, I could have had 200 or maybe even 300 workers. Well, they ended up with 50 workers. That was because of the amount of protein I fed them. When I first got them, they were doing pretty well. If I had continued feeding them how I did, they'd have hundreds of more workers. Well, I gave them a new formicarium and forgot to buy Fluon. Well, it was basically impossible to feed because they would always be climbing out of the lid. What I'm saying here is, don't forget to feed your ants protein. Oh, and also don't forget to buy Fluon. Next, what I'm going to talk about is moving your ants into a formicarium. Now, I'm tired of new ant keepers saying, oh, I just bought a new colony of Camponotus. I'm going to put them in a naturalistic 10-gallon tank. All I have to say about that is, what the actual heck? Most ants do not do good in tanks. Only experienced ant keepers that spend time, money, and research should do something like that. What you should do is move them into a Tar Heel Ants mini hearth or maybe an Ants Canada hybrid nest. I'd stay away from the ant tower. I haven't really seen ants do good in them. I use the tubs and tubes style formicarium. You could see them here in the video. They are very easy to use and last a very long time for a colony. All ants I've seen usually do good in them. Now let's say you have an ant species like Myrmecocystis. Myrmecocystis needs a mini hearth because of one thing, that is their replates. The replates hang from the ceiling and the mini hearth provides that. Obviously, mini hearths and Ants Canada hybrid nests don't last forever, so you could either attach another nest or give them a new, bigger nest. You would do this when the ant colony inside is clearly outgrowing their current setup. Also, don't buy something that has tight spaces if you have big ants. Finally, don't buy a nest that is too big for the colony. Like, for example, you have a single queen and you put it in an AC hybrid nest. Finally, we have hibernation. Now, for beginner ant keepers, this could be a little confusing. Now, every species do not need to hibernate. The species that need to hibernate are species that are found at high elevation. The most common is Camponotus. In hibernation, the ants should be in temperatures around 32 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Personally, I hibernate at 32 to 34 degrees because I use my family's refrigerator. I've only had one colony die in hibernation, and that was because the species was not supposed to hibernate. Other than that, all my colonies did great and had no worker deaths also. In their first egg batch after hibernation, they ended up laying around 40 eggs. Make sure to not put them in the freezer. A little mini tip in raising an ant colony is do not overcare. This can be checking on your ants too many times or overfeeding. Also, do not overworry. Having an ant colony is not very hard and there's very little to worry about. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Before you click off this video thinking, oh, this is just some little kid making this stuff up. No, most of these facts come from very experienced ant keepers that have had a lot of success. And the stuff that wasn't from them was something from my personal experience that I found helpful. Please share this video with other ant keepers that are new and need help starting with the hobby. Now, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.